Hi class, my name is Drew Dark, and today I'm going to be talking about CEQA and CAL FIRE, more specifically the effect that wildfires have on CEQA. And I'm looking to make a career out of wildland firefighting, so this is pretty relevant to me. So, as we've all probably noticed, being that most of us are from California, wildfire seasons are becoming longer and much more severe. This is due to a number of reasons, from mismanagement of our forests to the rising temperatures of our climate. California, in particular, has been having extremely intense wildfires, and it gets worse and worse each year. Looking at the diagram on the top right, this is looking from 1979 to present of total acres burned in California. And you can see that it's just been going up significantly, and the slope is increasing, and it increases more every year. This is no surprise since California has such hot, dry summers, such an abundance of vegetation. And now, with the continued development of houses in high risk fire areas, it's crucial that the proper fire suppression methods are taken for the health of our forests and safety of our communities. Just a little bit of history about wildfires in California. Just in this last year of 2020, over 4 million acres in California burned, compared to the second largest season, which was in 2018, where 1.8 million acres burned. So, just really increasing every year. Um, so, this has cost millions of dollars, as shown in the chart in the bottom left. It's hurting our economy. With the current trend, it does not look like it would be slowing down anytime soon. So you can see in 2017, there is a dramatic spike in millions of dollars spent on the damages caused by wildfires, and it has just been going up since. So prescribed burns, just some pros and cons. Prescribed fires or controlled burns, it's probably the most important tool of managing forest fires today. It's the act of purposely starting a manageable fire to thin out vegetation. And from these prescribed burns, it's preventing future forest fires from getting too out of hand and reduces the amount of resources needed to fight it. Other benefits include the prevention of loss of lives and property, help control invasive species populations, and recycle nutrients back into the soil. And I guess the only cons is that very few cases they do end up getting out of control and kind of ends up biting you in the butt. So now looking at CEQA a little more in depth. Uh, First, I know this diagram is the same as the one in the example, but it's a great simple picture just to show what a prescribed burn is. So you would start it at an anchor point, which in this case would be a river or it could be a road, just something blocking it from spreading, and then setting other backfires towards it so it stays contained. And there's multiple agencies that can carry out prescribed burns, the main two being CAL FIRE and the U.S. Forest Service, but also the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. So during a prescribed burn, whichever one of these agencies is handling it would be considered the lead agency. CEQA plays an important role of what the lead agency can and cannot do when setting a prescribed burn. Whoever is the lead agency has the responsibility of determining if it will be subject to CEQA. In most cases, this isn't necessary because they're exempt, and this makes sense because we can't get permission every time we set a prescribed burn because we have to do it so often. Uh, but sometimes you do, and an example of this would be, maybe you have to set a line through a wetland or something that's very fragile ecosystem, and in that case, the lead agency would have to fill out an environmental review report to submit. So now looking at CEQA and new development in the WUI zone or the Wildland Urban Interface Zone. So many areas in California, which were once untouched forest, are now turning into cities. In 2019, there were nearly 800,000 homes that were in moderate to extreme risk of wildfires. So now it comes as no surprise that the CEQA guidelines for Appendix G were amended because of this. This essentially is affecting developers by making them identify impacts that the projects will have on the environment, specifically wildfires in this case. These impacts are defined by any potentially significant direct, indirect, or cumulative environmental impacts of locating development in areas susceptible to hazardous conditions. And these essentially are just guiding agencies on how to evaluate these wildfire risks when they're doing new development. So, this is kind of just a checklist that they're now going to have to go through and new questions they have to ask themselves when they're developing. Will the project have transmission lines that could spark in high winds? Can the project be built in a way to avoid steep slopes or prevailing wind patterns that increase wildfire impacts? If the project will make fire conditions worse, are there mitigation measures that can adopted to reduce those conditions? So some examples of that would be maintaining and improving roads, fire breaks, and emergency water sources. And of course, these aren't every single example because that would take too long, but these are just some of the new things that are having to be looked at more crucially. And just lastly, this diagram of California, it's just kind of showing all the areas which are in these risks. And you can see that it's a very large portion of our state is in risk of wildfires. So that's my project. Thank you for listening, and I hope you liked it.